Hey, Ian.
Oh, hi, Josh. How's things? You enjoying Classic?
Well, no, Ian. That's what I've come to talk to you about. Everything is going really wrong.
Wrong? What do you mean?
It's the server queues, Ian. They're out of control. They're just so full of people. I started queuing to play my shaman the other day, and I'm still in the queue today.
Well, didn't you start characters on loads of different servers, though?
Yeah, but by the time I managed to log on to Whitemane to play my human tank, he'd literally died.
I don't understand how this could be happening. Didn't we open up a whole ton of new servers that are much clearer?
Well, yeah, but it's not that easy to make people change server, Ian. They're already with all their friends and favorite streamers.
You're right. What could possibly persuade players to move from the most popular servers? I honestly can't think of anything. I guess we're just going to have to cancel Classic. Ah, well, it was fun while it lasted.
Wait, I've got it. We just need a new server that everyone will want to play on. Give me your super dev laptop. It's working.
My gosh, Josh, you're a genius! You've saved Classic! Congratulations!
Thank you.
Now you can go to the forums and tell the player base about the new Classic store mounts coming next week. Are you crying?
Knowledge is power.
Hello Internet, Taliesin here, and welcome to another weekly reset. Taliesin and Evitel's wondrous wisdom show. And I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, well, this is splendid, an entire episode fully dedicated to my new favourite game, which is also my old favourite game, which is also everyone's new and old favourite game, WoW Classic. Because honestly, this week, what is there really else to talk about? And you're right, the world has gone absolutely Classic mad, and we are going to be talking a whole lot of Classic and all the things Classic, but it might surprise you that actually, in something of a first for this show, we are going to be covering no less than 5 different games today. Mostly WoW Classic, obviously, but also BFA, but also the surely upcoming Burning Crusade Classic, but also the mooted and not entirely denied WoW Classic Plus, but also the strongly rumoured WoW mobile game that everyone is strongly suspecting might be in the works somewhere because some Chinese phone company is making World of Warcraft phone cases, and yes, genuinely, that's a real thing people are talking about now. And actually, maybe you should make that 6 games we'll be talking about today, because there's also Glorious Saga, which, as you can see, has pretty much nothing to do with World of Warcraft at all, really, and really is a very different game, different in every single way. But of course, in truth, honestly, there is only one real story this week. The launch and triumph of WoW Classic. After 2 years, or for many players, 13 years of waiting, we, the WoW community, were finally able to set foot back into the world where it all began and play as close a recreation as any of us are ever going to get to vanilla World of Warcraft. For many, especially those that had drifted away from WoW and its modern incarnations over the years, it was a return home. And man, did a lot of people come home. Because the launch of WoW Classic was not just chaotic and exciting and frustrating and glorious and horrible, and yes, we'll talk about all of that, but it was also outrageously popular, setting new records on Twitch by smashing 1.1 million concurrent views and 6 million views overall as the servers went live. Bestest WoW website in the world, Wowhead, also experienced their highest ever amount of traffic. Magazines and online press have been falling over themselves to write about Classic. Creators have been scrambling to make videos about Classic. When Joker bagged the world first level 60 character a few days in, he did so in front of an astonishing 350,000 live viewers, and more on them, I mean him, later. Basically, WoW Classic is a smash hit, and everyone seems to be playing WoW Classic, or at least everyone seems to be trying to play WoW Classic, because if you were one of those excited returning players, expectantly clutching your ticket home as the servers went up on Monday after waiting 13 years for your dream to come true, chances are you found yourself waiting just a little bit longer. Because look, I don't want to be over the top about this, okay? I don't want to be simplistic. You know that we hate hyperbole, right? So I'm trying to find an elegant way of putting this, but basically, that shit melted. It melted, and ominously, it started melting long before the official launch of the game too, as players trying to buy game time so they could, play the game hours before the global launch found that they couldn't use the online shop because the online shop had melted. So sorry suckers, no WoW Classic for you. And if that was you, then yeah, it sucks to be honest, but it's probably just as well because we had no room for you anyway, because basically as soon as WoW Classic went live, it basically melted. Yes, that suspiciously low number of initial servers had been bolstered prior to launch with 1 or 2 more, but to the surprise of absolutely no one, and just as Blizzard had warned, there were big queues to get in. I don't mean like polite, orderly queues like you found in game, as thousands of players patiently waited in line to kill a quest mob, because apparently that's a thing on other servers, but not on my server, buddy, where it's every man for himself, and basically if you don't have Tremor Totem, then sucks to be you. No. These were billionaires queuing up to murder Jeffrey Epstein-sized queues, with the most popular servers, i.e. essentially all of them, but especially the PvP ones, seeing lines tens of thousands deep and hours long. There were huge swathes of the player base that could not play this game when it went live, although you definitely wouldn't have thought that if you were playing it, where starting areas were a gleeful cacophony of frantic lag-filled searches for quest mobs. Like seriously, any quest mobs that could be tagged, which of course was impossible because I don't know if I mentioned, but yeah, there was seriously like loads of people playing, considerably more you'd expect than played the launch of real vanilla back in 2004. Me and Evie played in a group of 5 from the very start, and it still took us around 2 hours to complete the opening 4 quests of the Forsaken starting area. Our gameplay consisting of standing at a point where we knew that a mindless zombie would eventually spawn, and hoping that when it did, one of us could get a tag on it before one of the many other players standing in the exact same spot. And we often wouldn't know if we'd successfully tagged it or not until a few seconds after the thing had died, because, lag exists. And I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, well, of course Taliesin and Evitel managed to get into the game on launch night. They are the most famous WoW YouTubers and streamers in the world. This is more proof of Blizzard streamer privilege in action. And of course that's silly, because if you were in a queue Monday night and I wasn't, it's probably got more to do with the fact that I was logged in and waiting for about 3 hours before launch. And also because I play on an RP PvP realm, and seriously though. So yeah, the queues were huge, they were tough, and for many, they were absolutely exasperating. But one thing they couldn't have been, surely, was surprising. We'd already got a taster of them in the whole name reservation adventure a couple of weeks earlier, and we'd been warned about them by Blizz in official blue posts. Ian Hazakostis pretty much begging people to change onto the newer servers before launch day. And as launch difficulty goes, what could be more vanilla than having to sit around waiting to even play the game? I mean, if you really want to go there, this was a much more authentic vanilla experience than a seamless launch with everyone playing happily, and that's an irony that certainly wasn't lost on the forums, where players took time out from staring at their unmoving launch screens to chuckle amongst themselves about the pandemonium, and actually, far from subtracting from the genuine solid gold vanilla WoW feels they'd come for, queues and lag and disconnect and general meltdown overload was as much a part of coming home as any. No, it was a shit show, obviously. 15 years later, new team, same rookie mistakes. Nice launch, so effing horrible. 14,000 in queue. What happened to these magic layers? Another failed launch incoming. Man, 2019! It's not like 2004. People want to be served in time with great unforgettable experiences. Why not more realms? Why not more layers? Why not make it great for us? Classically underprepared as usual. Oh yeah, because I forgot, all this shit was with the dreaded layering firmly in place. Imagine if we'd done what everyone wanted and gone with no layering at all. That would have been awesome. Still sad we didn't do that. And it's easy to pass all this off as funny and inevitable, but was it really inevitable? Blizzard put out a poxy amount of servers to begin with, and only when they realised they were looking at regular 3 and 4 hour queues did they start to slowly add more, which obviously the majority of players didn't move their characters to, because all their friends and favourite streamers were already established where they were. And Blizzard have added considerably more as the week has gone on, because yes, those 4 hour queues are still a thing, even though there are now almost 3 times as many servers across all regions than we started with. And the majority of those are also high pop or full, especially if they're PvP, and especially if they're called Skullflame. Because yes, Skullflame was not one of the names that they chose to put in at the beginning. Why not Skullflame? Why did we have to wait this long for Skullflame? So okay, maybe Blizzard should have started with all of these servers open in the first place instead of opening them up as and when. But at least the overcrowding problem is solved now, right? Well, no, not really. And when I say not really, I mean not at all. Because if you want to play at peak times, and by peak I mean basically any evening, then half of the time you're going to get a queue of at least 1,000. Some of the time you're simply not going to be able to play at all. And after a week, you'd have thought that would get old. But actually, surprisingly, the mood among the community is still cheery, especially on the forums, where there's a general sense that, okay, it's not ideal, but if anything, there's something about big server queues and occasionally being locked outside of the game that actually makes WoW Classic more exciting, more special, and that scarcity of actual playtime just makes us as a player appreciate it even though it was a shit show, obviously. I think it's a joke to pay for the game and wait 30 minutes before logging in. I've been in queue from 6 PM and it's 10 PM and still 165 min left. OMG Blizz, do you care about us? If yes, please help us play this game. Record-breaking cash grab, hee hee. We feel very oppressed right now, and it's hard not to feel sympathy for those on the outside looking in at the Manic Classic fun times. So why is this happening? Did Blizzard simply underestimate the demand for Classic? Did they genuinely think that those original 25 servers were going to be enough to house every single player in the world who wanted to come back? I honestly don't think that's the case, no. We know a few people at Blizzard, which you probably didn't realise because we hardly ever mention it, but my understanding from what I've heard is that there was never any doubt about how popular Classic would be in this first week. And honestly, why should there be? No one else is surprised. I remember most people predicting when this game was announced that in release month, WoW subs would be at their highest numbers ever, including me on this show. It's a total no-brainer that this game was going to be absolutely huge when it dropped. The great unknown is how popular it will be beyond that. Because whereas Vanilla WoW's player base grew steadily over its lifespan, it's likely that there are more people playing Classic right now than there ever will be again. And Blizzard have to plan for that, allowing servers to be overloaded now so that if a drop-off occurs, they aren't suddenly empty. And every server they open makes that emptiness more likely. Now, of course, maybe there never will be a drop-off and Classic will have a gabillion players for like ever, and that's not actually impossible, but it would be a bit weird, and Blizz are probably right to approach population planning with that in mind. One thing is for certain though, Blizzard missed the most open of open goals by not finding a way of making it possible for players to open BFA while they waited for their Classic queue to drop. Like seriously, that would have been smart. And in many ways, this week's episode has been a lot like the Classic launch itself. It's taken us quite a long time to actually get to the game, and here we are. So with all that in mind, what have our experiences of WoW Classic actually been? Well, and I can only speak for myself here, obviously, but pretty awesome. If distinctly unvanilla-like. I mean, Classic was never a coming home for me anyway. I started playing right at the very top of Wrath, and my excitement comes from the very real place of desperately wanting to see what the game was like back then, which is why I've always been totally #no changes. But it does mean that there's less direct nostalgia for me than there is for people who were there in 2004. Even then though, my first 5 days in Classic, and I got about 27 hours played in the end, were pretty much the exact opposite gameplay experience to my first week back in 2008. For a start, I'm playing Horde, mostly because I left the Alliance in Wrath and I haven't really seen any Horde pre-Kata content, so this is all fresh and new for me in a way. Secondly, I've spent every moment in a group of 5 because that's what I enjoy the most. It's awesome. We started our guild, Taliesin. We got a sweet tabard. We all quest together. People in Twitch chat help me out with stuff that I don't know because, oh yeah, I'm streaming now, which I didn't do back in Wrath. And so far, it's been an absolute joy. We've been leveling and doing dungeons, and of course that all takes longer, and of course I love that because I love leveling in any new expansion, and this is a lot like a new expansion to me. It really doesn't feel as different from modern WoW as I was expecting. That being said though, I have been especially enjoying those things that you don't get in mainline WoW. Like when we have to go and pick up all our quests for a dungeon before we go to the dungeon. Or when we all went and collected our cool new weapons in Thunderbuff for completing a certain quest in Wailing Caverns. That felt awesome. Or when we got totally wrecked by a wandering son of Arundel in Silverpine, then came back a few hours later at a higher level and got our revenge. Basically, I can now totally see where the Forsaken dislike of Worgen comes from, and I have to say, I'm pretty sympathetic to it. Or like when I got really excited for my first ever ring, because, you know, whatever, it's got to be an upgrade, right? It's my first ever ring, and then finding out that it gave me a minus spirit stat, so it was a terrible ring that needed to get in the sea. It was literally worse for me than not wearing a ring. Or when we went into Shadowfang Keep under-geared and spent the best part of an hour trying to kill the final boss because he actually has an actual mechanic, like for reals though, and eventually killing him with just me, the healer, and the tank line of sighting him to death over the course of 10 minutes. The single most stupid and hilarious boss fight that I have ever done. Or like having to buy spells when we level, which I always forget to do, obviously. Or when we spent, and I shit you not, well over an hour to each collect 8 Dalaran Wizards pendants, and I'd already been playing for 11 hours at that point, and I was so done, and actually that one might not be a great example, but it was still fun? Kind of, I'm gonna say fun. All these little elements that I'd love to see back in the live game in some way. And yes, Blizzard, once again, I'm saying that I'd like a longer, slower leveling process at the start of new expansions, spell trainers, and attunements. Good luck selling that one to us. Eventually, of course, most people who persevere with Classic are going to be at Endgame, and that will be the real test of Classic's staying power. Right now, the world is buzzing and excited because essentially everyone is still leveling along with you. There's a real sense of adventure and camaraderie that I'm really making the most of because, like most people, I am leveling a lot quicker than I did first time I played this game. And it's not because I'm streaming and have a ready-made community, it's because I have even the vaguest idea of what I'm doing and how best to play this game. I think most players are experiencing similar feelings on a less dramatic scale if they're just solo leveling and grouping up for extra tricky elite mobs and stuff, but there's also a much more extreme end to that scale as well. Those players who are bombing it. We've already had at least one prominent player hospitalized, Ebonflow becoming so dehydrated when playing that he developed an AB electrolyte imbalance. Jokerd reached level 60 in a little under 4 days with 79 hours played, apparently totally solo, essentially ignoring questing and dungeoning and just AoEing large mob packs down forever until he dinged in front of those 350,000 live viewers, at which point he tried to delete his character because he's such a total badass, but couldn't because thousands of people kept sending him in-game mail specifically so that he couldn't. Basically, he's an absolute legend and we can all agree with that. Good lord, that sounds tedious! What a boring way to level. Dude, that's exactly why he's a legend. And then, of course, there's the whole method world first race, bringing shiny studios, enthusiastic commentators, and like loads of adverts to this Classic launch and showing just how different Classic is from vanilla if you want it to be. And look, you know I love these method shows, okay? And this one's great. There is something so gloriously ridiculous about seeing a bunch of buff dudes in official esports uniforms slowly killing boars in the Barrens while Mr. GM tells you how exciting it is. And this is not a criticism, this is genuine admiration. I absolutely love it. But of course, Method were never going to actually get world first. There's only 18 of them on that server, it turns out. And anyway, that honor has already been taken by APES, a European, of course, alliance guild on Gehennas, who took all of 5 days to take out Ragnaros and Molten Core, and then just another few hours to wipe out Onyxia. I seem to remember many people in my Twitch chat during beta laughing in my face when I suggested that Molten Core would be beaten in less than 2 weeks, a prediction that in hindsight looks outrageously conservative. APES have a long and storied private server history, unsurprisingly, so knew exactly what they were doing. They leveled by dungeon spamming, got attuned to Molten Core by funneling all the rep and items they needed to the relatively tiny amount of party members that actually needed them, and then entered the instance with 40 players, only 26 of whom were level 60, only one of whom was tank geared, and none of whom were wearing any fire resist gear at all. As a great disembodied head once said, knowledge really is power. So, grats to APES, and I guess now that's over, everyone can just take their time and chill a bit with no pressure. Obviously, if you want to read more about any of these stories, or you're looking for dungeon guides, or gearing guides, or profession guides, or class guides, or basically anything else classic, then as always, we recommend Wowhead as the absolute best place to go, and we'll be linking some useful and relevant articles in the description below. But with Molten Core and Onyxia down, inevitably, the question is already being asked, what comes next? If Classic is all about the journey, and most players are completing that journey much quicker than they did in Vanilla through sheer knowledge and interconnectivity, how does Classic retain those gabillion players in the long term? Well, obviously the next official step is WoW Classic Phase 2, with Dire Maul and world bosses Azuragos and Kazakh, which should be especially fun because of course Phase 2 should also see the removal of layering. When your whole server goes to kill Kazakh, your whole server will be there. And for obvious reasons, this will also be when Taliesin starts mounting some pretty serious raids on Stormwind, just so you know. Phase 3 sees the next big raid in Blackwing Lair, but honestly, expect that to go down literally minutes after the patch hits. Likewise, Zul'Gurub in Phase 4, which also brings the Green Dragons. Phase 5 and AQ40 will be the first really exciting patch for most people, with the server-wide raid effort hand-ins playing a massive part in which guilds will even get a chance to enter the raids first. And Phase 6 is pretty juicy too, with the Scourge Invasion World event and the opening of the now almost mythical original Naxxramas. There's PvP updates too, with battlegrounds and things peppered throughout all of that, but PvE wise, what happens when Phase 6 is complete and Classic is essentially over? Just like Vanilla, except kind of more than Vanilla, because more players will have completed more of the content this time around. Well, there's the incredibly obvious option. You move on to the next expansion with Burning Crusade Classic, a whole different bunch of servers to copy your Classic character over to continue your adventure, while still keeping the Classic servers up for people who just want to play that game. And of course, don't forget the live servers, which will have a whole new, actually new expansion going on by then. And now we have our player base spread over 3 different versions of Warcraft, which is good because honestly, I hate people. Now, last I heard, Blizzard was still undecided as to whether BC Classic would even happen, but you'd imagine that it's a pretty safe bet at this stage, and I wouldn't be surprised to see it get announced at BlizzCon. But why stop at 3 different WoWs? Because if you love Classic and you just want to play it forever, but you'd like new content too, then another idea that's been gaining a lot of traction, and that hasn't been dismissed out of hand by devs, is Classic Plus, as in actual, new, unique content being created for Classic, but with none of the class changes or quality of life improvements or, you know, Outland that come with later expansions. So like a new raid, or dungeon, or epic questline. It's an idea that people talk to me about in super excited tones, and I have to say, it's an idea that needs to be encased in concrete and dumped in the North Sea. New official content for Classic. Are you kidding me? Yeah, it might be fun for a bit, but once you start changing Classic in fundamental ways, then it's not pristine Classic anymore. So what about those guys that just waited 13 years for Classic? Just f them, I guess. Or maybe we can make new Classic servers for them that actually are Classic servers, and now we've got 4 different WoWs. And you think Classic Plus people would be happy with the odd dungeon or raid? Once you've established that adding new content is a thing, people are going to want a whole Classic Plus expansion, and suddenly we have an alternative timeline going on, and no, just no. Oh, and do you think they wouldn't put microtransactions in that shit? Do you really think that? I know we're super excited about Classic right now, and it's super fun, and it's easy to get carried away, and I can't believe I'm about to say this, but honestly, when it comes to Classic Plus, you think you do, but you don't. Or more importantly, I don't, so that's the end of it. Now, having said that, I wouldn't be totally against a tool which allows players to use existing assets to create their own new content, like a dungeon or a raid making thing. That would be cool and unofficial, and of course need to lack any kind of actual rewards so it couldn't be gained, but would be fun for fun's sake. Now that I could totally go for, like a classic Mario Maker sort of setup. That fits with what Blizz have done in Warcraft 3 and StarCraft. That would be totally rad. But official Classic Plus, no. But Classic Plus Maker, yes.
But why stop at 4 WoW games? This week, Xiaomi revealed that they were working officially with Blizzard to sell 2 new World of Warcraft branded phones in Horde and Alliance colors. News that would make us go, at the best of times, but in a week that saw Amazon apparently accidentally leak Overwatch on the Nintendo Switch by selling official Overwatch branded Nintendo Switch cases, this is going to set the rumor mill alight. So allow us, if you will, to casually throw some more gasoline on the fire. There's been talk forever of some kind of Warcraft spin-off mobile game. I think we all know it's only a matter of time before the Pet Battle game gets announced, and the mobile mission table apps for Legion and BFA have obviously been around for years now. And of course, there's the meme that the reason classes and rotations feel slower and more simple in BFA is because Activision want the game to be able to run smoothly on consoles or mobile phones, which obviously would be the absolute worst thing that could ever happen, because seriously, only idiots and girls play mobile phone games. And in fairness, that's true. I only really use my phone for 3 things: as a mirror to do my makeup, to occasionally alter the official feminist agenda Google Doc, and to play Words with Friends. And I get it, implying that BFA could be played on phones is the ultimate insult. It implies that it's not a real game. But if you ask me, that's a pretty dangerous way of thinking. Because really, honestly, there's no way you could play BFA on a phone or a tablet, and we all know that. There is, however, an authentic and ready-made, massively popular World of Warcraft experience that could be feasibly played on the mobile though, isn't there? Something that really doesn't demand any graphical or processing power, which is much slower paced than live WoW and has much fewer buttons. Guys, let's be real here. If there's ever going to be a real World of Warcraft game on phones, it's gonna be WoW Classic, isn't it? And what better time than now to release it when the entire world is really hyped about WoW Classic? So, is it possible that these new WoW branded phones could signal another big announcement at BlizzCon? I mean, if they hide it amongst Burning Crusade Classic and the new live expansion, then they might just get away with it. And don't hate me for this, okay? But I'd probably play it too. Obviously, because I'm a girl. And if Blizzard really were planning WoW Classic on mobile, which would presumably be very popular in China, then it's quite possible they might crack down on their IP in China beforehand. Because why stop at 5 WoW games? Last week, Blizzard sued Chinese company Sina Games for their title Glorious Saga. And yeah, fine. Usually we don't look at this kind of thing on this channel because dodgy Chinese WoW knockoffs are 10 a penny. But honestly, Glorious Saga really is glorious and deserves to be seen. Which you can't because it's been pulled from its storefront, which is why it's okay for us to show you it now. And okay, you might think you'd never play a mobile game because you are a real and proper gamer, but that might change once you see the characters Glorious Saga has to offer, like Hellstream's War Song, who is the legend in orcs, a great tribe warrior who reacted fast. Don't fancy playing warrior? How about Stormwind King? He became the greatest warrior in human history after experience all the tough past. Oh no, wait. He's a warrior too. Okay, how about Jaina Proudmoore? She's an outstanding ice magician. Or Vanessa, a tragic assassin, good at assassination. Or Ashara? The former ranger shooter led the people who already died once to pursue greater goals. You know what? Screw Classic. Now I feel like I've really come home. I can see why Blizz feel threatened by this one. So, we've covered 5 different WoW games so far this episode, and we should probably touch on BFA, or retail, or live, or mainline, which is a term I'm pretty desperate to get used more widely. The thing is, there really isn't much to talk about. All Team 2 hands have been firmly on the Classic deck for the last week for the big launch, so there have been no PTR updates apart from some very minor casting animation changes for the new Worgen models, and nothing really new to talk about except some more 4chan leaks, this time with what purports to be a cinematic screenshot, which we are absolutely not going to show you here. That's one you're going to have to go and find for yourself, I'm afraid. But it would feel wrong to let a show go by without any mainline news at all, so check out those new Worgen spellcasting animations. Nice.
So here's the question, right? So we've been playing WoW Classic. I've been playing quite a bit more than you.
Yeah.
But how was your time in Classic so far?
It was really super buggy. I logged in on the first night. It took me like half an hour to pick up one quest. But it was fun, and it's been really fun watching the guild grow and stuff, to be fair. And actually, I really enjoyed the frustrating, hour that I had. So I'm willing to give it more.
Okay, so here's something I touched on, right? Which I kind of made a joke about, but I've talked about it on stream as well. Do you think, is there any part of you that thinks, okay, that the whole, having to queue up for hours to get in, and if you're not lucky, or, if you don't plan it in far in advance, you just won't play.
Yeah.
And when you get in there, it's really full and stuff like that. Do you think the fact that there's actually a challenge to even start playing WoW Classic at the moment, do you think that actually perversely, adds to the excitement? Do you think that, adds to the hype?
For some people, yeah.
Because I feel like, apart from anything, it kind of rations out how much you can actually play.
That's fair.
So it stops people kind of burning out straight away and things like that. And people are like, oh my god, I've only been at level 11 because I've literally only been able to play about 5 hours or something like that.
I can see that. At the same time, I can understand how frustrating it is.
Yeah. I guess it just adds to the legend of Classic.
Yeah, it's the login boss.
Classic BC, would you play that?
Yeah.
I don't think you would. That doesn't convince me. That doesn't sound very convincing.
I would, because I just want to know what it's like, because
Right.
I didn't actually play through BC when it came out. And that's why Classic is fun, because I didn't play vanilla. So I'm like, wow, this is challenging. And also, there's something really charming about how low res the graphics are. It takes me back to a place in my mind when I was playing, EverQuest or whatever.
There's a really satisfying simplicity, particularly Orgrimmar and places like that. I think it's really cool. And what is your character in Classic?
She's an undead warlock.
Called?
Evitel.
And of course, going back to BFA just very quickly, now that Classic is out and Classic is running, and now we've had our world first Molten Core and Onyxia, Classic's basically
Congrats.
over now.
Yeah.
Do you think? I didn't mean that.
No, that was
Please.
a joke. That was a funny.
Come on.
That was a funny joke.
It's a joke, mate.
I knew
Jokes,
that.
mate.
I knew
Thanks. I'm
that.
glad you know it.
Yeah.
Are we gonna get some news on 8.25 now?
I'm ready for it.
Yeah, I'm so ready for it.
I'm really ready for it.
I feel like I'm such a cat. I feel like I was all about 8.2. I was like, this is amazing. I really love this. And then Classic came out and I was like, ooh, what's this? This is shiny. Oh, have you seen this? This is amazing. And I'm really enjoying Classic. I'm loving it. I'm playing it every day. I've got a really nice group of friends in there and stuff. But the second 8.25 stuff comes out as well, I'll be like,
yeah.
ooh, like this.
One thing has kind of turned me off 8.25 actually. What? The lack of top hats for Worgen.
Well, it hasn't happened yet. It might come. It might happen.
Will it though?
Well, you don't know it won't. Won't be heritage armor.
Maybe that's why they're revamping some of the animations right now. It's because to make room for when they're casting, to make sure it doesn't clip with the top hat.
Do you think they've made the heritage armor top hats and they're so big and glorious, and you know that Fiesel's there like that, make him bigger, make him bigger, make him shinier, and they were like,
on a jaunty
and the
angle.
hand, the thumb just clipped it or whatever, and the Fiesel
yeah,
was
they're like, start over, do it again.
Do you know how I know that's definitely not true?
How?
When have Blizz ever given a shit that stuff clips through your clothes?
I know. Literally never, ever.
And thank you for joining us today. It was nice of you to stop playing Classic for a little bit and swing by. We much appreciated it. If you like this video, don't thank us. Thank our patrons who continue to give their actual real life money to make all these videos happen. Guys, thank you. Without you, the videos wouldn't happen.
No.
And I swear, as Jaina is my witness, that we'll definitely do a Q&A this week.
Yeah.
Because there is not going to be a weekly reset next week, because we are going on guild holiday. Ain't going to be a weekly reset next week, guild holiday. So make the most of this video, go back, watch it again as soon as this one's finished, I reckon.
Do it.
Just re-watch it. Come back next week, watch this one again.
Revisit the oldies.
Yeah, you'll like it.
Which are not goodies.
We know you like that. We know you like going back to the old stuff. We know you love the old stuff. Come back, come and watch this video again. If you didn't like it, downvote the shit out of it. Remember, my name is The Other Day. No, my name is Taliesin. From me
and me, Evitel.
Until next time. Cheerio.